Hi, I made an interview with Yong. He has a Taiwanese channel. He's from America, he's from the United States, but he lives in Taiwan, and he is fluent in Taiwanese. We met and we drank a coffee, and we also decided to make an interview and a video together. And now we have two parts of an interview. One part is over here in my channel and the other part is on his channel. So you can first watch this part, or maybe you already watched his part on his channel, and you can continue here and watch the second part of the interview. So let's get started.
Yong.
Yong. Okay, so that's the first word I have to learn here. Yong. And I'm so happy to have you here.
Thanks.
In my home, and yeah, to be able to make this video with you.
Yeah, happy to be here. It's,
yeah.
We've been chatting online. We had a cup of coffee the other day, and we figured we'd get together and do video. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And my first question is, I would like to, just to know more about how did you start learning Taiwanese, and why did you start? How did this whole journey start? Please tell us here.
And it is a journey, to be sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, everybody asks that, right? That's the first thing they
Yeah.
ask. Like, why did you start learning Taiwanese? So maybe I just get that out of the way first.
Okay.
So for me, I normally answer this question. I have like my set of answers that I give.
Okay.
So my set answer for this one is, why not? Right? It's Taiwan. It's the local language.
Exactly.
They've spoken it here for what, 400 or 500 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they spoke it. Even during the Japanese era, during the ROC era, it was always underground as the most popular, language among the natives.
Yeah.
And I live here, so why not?
Okay. So what is the percentage of people, I mean, maybe you know some statistics maybe about the Taiwanese language here in Taiwan. So what is the percentage of people who is speaking Taiwanese on a daily basis?
So what I've heard, and obviously I don't know the accuracy of all these numbers, but the 2010 census was the most recent numbers that I've seen. And I forget the exact numbers, so we'll fact check and put it in the comments or something, but something like 80% of households claim to use Taigi at home.
Okay, that's pretty much. That's a very high number.
That's a huge percentage.
Yeah, okay, wow. So
And
80%,
that's not exclusively, by the way. Like, that's mixed. It can include only Taiwanese, or Taiwanese and Mandarin, or Taiwanese something else, but at least they include Taiwanese.
And another thing that I really want to ask you about, how can you differentiate between Mandarin Chinese and Taiwanese? Because I think sometimes even for Taiwanese people, it's hard to really draw a line between, okay, now we're talking Taiwanese, and this is the vocabulary for Taiwanese, and we're talking about this topic just in Taiwanese, and then you have the Mandarin Chinese influence, and basically there's just Mandarin Chinese all over the place. So
Sure.
yeah, where to draw the line and how?
Yeah, I would say that the majority of spoken language in Taiwan, including Mandarin and Taigi, has a lot of code switching, right? So whether you're speaking Mandarin, you're going to say paise.
Okay,
Right.
and can you please explain for all of us code switching, because this is a very important keyword.
Technical term, yeah. So
Yes.
so code switching is basically when you're speaking in one language with the grammar and the intonation and all of those kind of patterns from that language, but you're dropping in bits and pieces from another language. So that happens both ways in Taiwan. Like, you're speaking Mandarin with somebody, but you still drop in Taiwanese words and phrases.
Yes.
Or the other way, you're speaking Taiwanese and you drop in Mandarin words and phrases.
Okay.
But so to answer your question, yeah, the distinction between them is quite clear, but the distinction in practice of using them is maybe not as clear, because you do mix a lot.
Okay, I see. If you just go back to the differentiation between writing in characters, in Chinese characters, and using the, how is it called, the Romanization?
Romanization, or in Taigi we say Romaji.
Yeah, Romaji. What's your stance on that?
Yeah, it's really good. It's a really deep topic. Like, a lot of people are going to think like, oh, whatever, just write whatever, right?
Okay.
But it's a really deep topic. So the English missionaries to Malaysia, as far as I understand,
Okay.
this is back in like the 1810s or so.
Wow. Okay.
They worked with Hokkien speakers in Malaysia and developed this Romaji system for Hokkien languages. And it works pretty well for Taiwanese. Some slight modifications over the years, but basically the same. So when the English missionaries came to Taiwan, this is like 1885 time period, they started teaching the Romanization in church. And so you'll hear people refer to it as like 告了 Gao meaning church, and Lo meaning Romanization. So church Romanization, you'll hear that name for it. And basically, it caught on pretty quickly, I think. Within, like, let's say, a couple of decades, like 30 to 50 years or so, it was being used pretty widely. So there were magazines, there were newspapers, there were all kind of publications, advertisements written in Romaji. And what I heard is that at the peak of, like, at the height of Romaji usage, it was around maybe 300,000 people were using it on a regular basis. So there's quite a lot of, like, benefits of using Romaji for Taiwanese, right? Because
so first of all, it didn't start in Taiwan.
It didn't start in Taiwan.
Yeah.
It started in Rome like 2,000 years ago.
That's also, yeah.
No, yeah. So it didn't start in Taiwan. It was modified from Malaysian Hokkien for Taiwanese. A few decades after that, and it's been modified over the years here. But yeah, there's a lot of benefits, right? Because if you read the Romanization, you get exactly what the pronunciation is supposed to be, and it's a huge advantage for people who are either learning it or even for native speakers who are not really literate.
So you mean that it's much easier to make people literate with that kind of scripture? Okay,
absolutely. What I've heard from some older professors and such is that if they teach like a crash course in it, like a compact, intensive course, in about 2 weeks, a native speaker can become literate in Taiwanese. So that's a huge advantage, right?
How do people react when they see you, starting speaking Taiwanese to them? What are the reactions? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it may not be what people expect, actually. Like, the expected response would be something similar to what you get if you speak Mandarin, right? Which is like, oh, your Taiwanese is so good. And sometimes you get that, but a lot of times, I'll give you an example. Just last night, I went to some snack stand at 11 o'clock or whatever for some noodles. And I started speaking in Taiwanese with the guys there, and they didn't think anything of it. It was just like, oh, we're just chatting, and there was no real reaction there. And I think that's a very interesting sort of response, because in Mandarin they're always kind of shocked a little bit when foreigners speak Mandarin well. But with Taiwanese, a lot of times I find that they just kind of like, okay, he just speaks Taiwanese, because for them they're so used to it. Taiwanese, like, they live Taiwanese, so it doesn't, if somebody, doesn't matter what you look like, you show up speaking Taiwanese, it's fine. There is one reaction that I've gotten a few times, not every time, a few times in Taiwanese, that I've not gotten ever in Mandarin in 13 years, which is they hear me speak, I don't know them, stranger, they hear me speak Taiwanese, and they say, are you Taiwanese?
Okay.
I've never gotten that reaction in Mandarin.
Wow. Why would they react like that? Or why would they think that you might be Taiwanese?
I don't know. I mean, I assume that that's just their understanding of, of how these languages work, is that if you speak Taiwanese, you must have grown up here. Because there's no other way to learn it. It happens in every language, right? There's always prestige dialects and the low dialects and all this stuff. But I think, Taiwanese has been seen historically as a low fangyan, right? But now, my understanding of it, at least, especially since the end of martial law period, is that, there's been a sort of rejuvenation, and it's now on its way to becoming maybe a prestige language.
And is there a difference between the regions in Taiwan? Is there some kind of difference, for example, between Hsinchu or Kaohsiung or Tainan or whatever region?
Yeah, for sure. So the more metropolitan an area is, the less Taiwanese you hear, especially out on the street. Right, and the more like rural in a sense it is, the more Taiwanese you're going to hear everywhere. But the reasons for that are 100% political, right? There's no like social reason why the people in this area stopped speaking Taiwanese, because they did like 2 generations ago. It's all political pressure. And when you talk to, because I've had plenty of conversations with older people about their experience speaking Taiwanese when they were growing up in the martial law period. And it's they all have a kind of very, I don't know, it's like a sad story to tell about it, right? That, oh, I spoke Taiwanese at school and I had to wear a dunce sign that said, I will not speak vulgar languages and things. So they've received a lot of yapuokai.
When we talk about younger people or the younger generation right now, are there still very young people who really speak only Taiwanese, or among themselves just speak Taiwanese, and they're even more fluent in Taiwanese than in Mandarin Chinese?
So I happen to know the probably the only people that exist in that crowd that are in. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. There are definitely people who. There's always this like socioeconomic thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you go into the poor areas, you'll find people like that.
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
But if you're talking about people who have a university education and work in engineering or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I do know people like that.
Okay.
That are like, they try to speak as much as possible only Taiwanese. They prefer it. They're better at it. They can read Taiwanese easier and more clearly than Mandarin.
Mm-hmm.
And they're university educated, work in engineering. Like I said, I have some
Yes.
friends that do that. So there are some out there. Obviously not many anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
So if you enjoyed this part of the video, just jump to the channel of Ah Young. I would put a link over here, and you can see the rest of the video.